Hi students! Alright, so today will be our first HBL for this term, and I hope that this here is helpful to you to understand what you are required to do for your GIAA for this term. So for TA3, we'll be having our GI project, and this entire project will count towards your TA3 scores, which is 15% of your overall score. So what are you going to be doing for this term? Let me point out to you some of these different tasks over here. So we'll start off by doing a non-graded task during the HBL period. So you can see that this is over here where I will guide you through how to do this task to map our school. And you also have to do some prep work in order for you to be sufficiently prepared to map our neighborhood. Okay, so let's focus on these two first. Eventually, as a team, you will be doing this component together. Okay, this component together where you are going to do a questionnaire survey as well as questionnaire editing. All right, so you do this only in the subsequent weeks when you're back in school. So for 2TG7, so this is for 2TG7, this here will be done in week 2 during HBL. This is done in week 3. All right, so let's get on to it. Okay, so in every year, what we do is we always figure out what is our research question, what do we want to investigate, so that when we carry out our GI, we have a clear purpose and we have a clear idea of what kind of information we want to gather. So in this case, you're looking at this question, which is on housing. Okay, because this year we have learned about cities so far, we have learned about transport, and now we are looking at housing. So for our GI for this term, we are going to look at how different features in the neighborhood housing estate, what do these features do, how do they impact our residents around the neighborhood. Okay, so what exactly is a feature? Okay, feature refers to amenities as well as facilities. Oops, sorry about that. Amenities and facilities. What are these things that you see in your neighborhood? So now I want you to close your eyes. You just imagine yourself after a day of going to school. You come home, you alight at the bus stop. What are some things you would see in your neighborhood before you reach your home? Right, I believe that most of us will have to walk a little bit of a distance before we reach our home itself. Even if the bus stop is really near your house, there will still be things that you can see in your vicinity before you reach your house itself, right? So let's imagine that first. Oops. So let's imagine that first. And I'd like you to write this down so that you have some ideas in your mind, okay? So some of you may have written down, oh, I can see that there's a sheltered walkway. I can imagine myself walking down a path. I see some provision shops nearby. I see the nearby coffee shop. I see 7-Eleven. I may see a swimming pool if I stay near a swimming complex. Or if you're like me, you hear the background of screaming, okay? Maybe you stay near a playground. Maybe you stay near a park where children are playing in the afternoon, or maybe you can observe schools near your house, right? Or childcare centers, all right? So these are basically the amenities that you see. So importantly for us to figure out if these here have a common advantage, right, is that we try to classify this together. We try to put this in similar categories. So for example, this is what I've taken from the internet. Okay, so maybe you observe that you have some educational spaces, maybe primary school, secondary school, you may see preschool, for example. Okay, so these are considered educational spaces. Perhaps near your home, you have a lot of these facilities for people to engage in, for people to play at. So you may have a playground, you may have a fitness corner for the elderly, you may have basketball courts, you may have community gardens. And if I were to categorize these facilities, I will call them recreational spaces. Right, so this here is just some examples. You may have more varied kinds of recreational spaces around your neighborhood. Now, another example that you may see around your neighborhood is that you may have shopping malls, you may have wet markets, provision shops, you may have supermarkets, you may have Sheng Siong, you may have NTUC and so on. So these places where people exchange money for goods, right, or services, right, is what we call retail spaces. And you have a big variety of these within your neighborhood, and I'm sure that you have more than just these samples that I've shown you so far. And another category, of course the categories are non-exhaustive, but here another category that I like to flesh out would be the category here that relates to transportation, right? So you may see many amenities around the area, you may see some facilities that makes it easier for you to travel. So it could be a bus stop, it could be an LRT or MRT station, it could be a bicycle bay, it could be a drop-off point for taxis or for your Tada or Grab and so on. Okay, so these are some of the categories you can use to classify the places that you see within your neighborhood. So what are we going to do next? We're going to figure out if these neighborhood features, right, or these amenities that I've listed out so far, do they have any benefits for the environment, or for the residents? Do they make the residents' lives better in any way? So what is the advantages of having these amenities within walking distance of your home? If I stay near any of these, what benefits can it possibly bring me? Pause for a while so you can think a little bit before I carry on. Perhaps you say that when I live near these amenities, life is more convenient, right? So if you say life is more convenient, it's a little bit broad. It's not quite clear yet. Convenience in what way, okay? Because what you find convenient may be very different from how I interpret convenience. All right, so perhaps we can categorize that into different categories again. So perhaps you find that if your school is within walking distance, then you spend less time traveling, and that also translates to you having more time to pursue your hobbies, to sleep a little more, to play one more extra game, or to spend a bit more time on what you enjoy, right? So that's one possible category. Another possible category is that since you spend less time traveling, that also means that you spend less money traveling. So that could be another benefit that you experience, okay? And because you spend less time traveling, you spend less money traveling, that probably means that you do not need a car, you do not need the MRT as much or the bus as much, right? So that means that we have less carbon emissions in our atmosphere, correct? Because we have fewer cars that are moving around and trying to move people around the country. And when we have fewer cars, we have lower carbon emissions. That also means that we have cleaner air quality, we have less air pollution, and as a whole, that improves our environment. Okay, so why do I classify these into these three categories? Please write this down in your booklet. This is because I can see them providing me with social benefit, economic benefit, as well as environmental benefit. So social benefit here refers to things like making my life better, my quality of life better, or it reduces tension between people, or it makes people feel more united or more connected. For economic benefit, it refers to how much money I can save or how much money that I stand to gain or profit. Then the last one here is how it makes my environment better, physical environment better. Okay, so here you can have a quick look. This is also another elaboration of the types of impact. You can pause it if I'm going a little too quickly so that you can read through this first and you can jot this down just as your own personal reference. You can put this on page 2 of your booklet. So what are we doing this for? We are trying to use the GI process where we investigate real life examples and real case studies to help us to understand a little bit more, to help us to explore and figure out what are the purposes of some of these features, how do they make lives better for residents, okay, and how does this benefit the people who are living around there. Alright, so this helps us to better understand possible problems and for us to generate solutions and generate ideas as well. So for today, what are you going to do to practice the skill and to prepare you for your next graded assignment, which is next Thursday on the 24th of July? What are you required to do? The first thing you're required to do today is to figure out how to map our school. Okay, so what is mapping our school? It means that you have to draw a map of our school and represent different things that we can see in the school. So I would like you to close your eyes again and to imagine what our school looks like when you enter from the back gate or enter from the front gate. What are some of these facilities and amenities that a visitor could be interested in? Okay, so on a piece of paper, which is on page 5, you are to draw a rough sketch of the school layout and include the major buildings, the major facilities that you see within the school. Okay, next thing you could do is you are to label them, label what you draw, because on the map it may look like a square, but maybe to you the square represents the field. And I can't tell because I can't orientate myself and figure out what you're drawing. Okay, so very important for you to label it so that it's clear to the reader. Then the next thing you do is you can include different patterns or different colors if you find that separates the classes a little bit more. So if you're drawing For instance, the library versus drawing the classrooms, you want to differentiate them further, you can use a different color, you can use a special symbol, and so on. Now the last one is, if you're using any special colors or symbols, you have to ensure that you understand what the symbols mean. Alright, so if it's pink in color, explain why is it pink, right? It could be that everything that is in pink are basically retail areas. Okay, so you have to interpret that for us, explain that for us. Alright, now here is an example for you to have a quick reference. Of course, this here, while it's drawn very, very nicely, it shows you the layout of the school. There are still some areas here that are not up to standard. What do I mean by that? Take a look at the building. Are there missing classrooms? For example, I know this student have tried his or her very best, but there are still some areas where you can add on to make sure that you fully understand and can visualize the school that you're asked to draw. Okay, so for example, between the FCE hub and the canteen, definitely there are some other things between these two blocks. The classroom is still used for something else. Or for example, here the students say that this is the NCDCC room, but is that so? Are there any other CCA rooms that are along this corridor? Right? So you can see that even the best sample that we can find and we can show you has still some areas to improve. Okay, so at this point here, I'd like you to pause to complete the map of Bowen first, and then carry on to watch the second video, which is very, very important because it guides you to figure out how to prepare for your task on 24th of July. Okay, so use this very wisely, use this time wisely to help you to build that confidence to address this question, and come on up to check in with me if there are anything that's unclear for you. I hope this has been helpful. If you find that you need more help, please reach out. Okay, thank you. See you next Thursday.